Michelle. Before I get started today, I just want to let you know that no humans were harmed in the making of this photo. This was all given with permission, and of course I didn't work on top of my friend's snowboard. This was just purely for the show, for the gram. But what remote work has given me the freedom to do is to be able to ski every day 1 month, then surf every day the next month. But I'm not here to sell you on the benefits of remote work, because that's why you're here. I'm here to help you get a fully remote job, whether that's freelance, whether that's permanent, whatever that looks like for you, so that you've got the freedom to do that too. So if you've been looking for remote work for several weeks, several months, some of these might sound familiar. You may have scrolled on LinkedIn, found a job you like, and thought, yes, this job's great, the company works out, I've checked them on Glassdoor. You've tweaked your CV, it's probably taken you a few hours, you started filling in the application form online, and realised, it's not actually remote. They're asking me to be based in a specific location, in a country that I'm not from, or a country I don't want to be in. Or worse still, they say it's remote, and it's actually they're asking for you to come into the office 1 day a week or 1 day a month. Like they don't really understand what the term remote means. And you're basically anticipating those rejection emails, and that's if you're lucky. The ghosting that goes on now, where you're sending countless applications, you're getting in touch with people and they just don't respond, actually, rejection emails are a blessing, because at least you're getting a response, right? So imagine this instead. Imagine sending half the number of applications, getting connections to remote companies, getting real introductions to people, and actually getting a job that aligns with your values. And when I use the term job here, I don't just mean a J-O-B job. I mean anything where you're paid to work remotely. So that can be whatever that looks like for you. So I didn't always have this life of freedom. This was me back in 2014 when I worked in an office in London. I know some of you may have known me back then. I wasn't so healthy, I wasn't so happy. I drank quite a lot. I was living in a tiny flat in London, paying a fortune, and London wasn't my happy place. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I really realised how unhappy I was. So I started having to think about what is my happy place, or where is my happy place? And for me, that is in the ocean. In the ocean, around the ocean, near it, on the beach, diving, surfing, whatever that looks like. And it's somewhere tropical. And I don't know whoever's been to the UK, but it's not exactly there. So I wanted to get out. So I seized the opportunity in April 2021. My friend said that Bali was his happy place, and I was like, okay, the office in London is closed, there's a lockdown. Why don't I go to Bali and see what it's like while I've got the opportunity? And then, I'm in my 30s, I've just got to go back and live a normal life after that. So I thought I'd do this temporarily. And I was there for 2 months. And when the 2 months came, my boss called me and said, Michelle, it's time to come back. The office in London is opening, and you need to come back. And I felt sick. I had this pit in my stomach feeling where I was like, I can't go back to that life. I've got an amazing life here. I'm surfing in the morning, I've got a great group of people, I've got a community. I'm still working my 8 hours a day, I'm probably being more productive, and I just couldn't bear the thought of going back to that life. So I quit, and I started the search for remote work. I thought, I've never struggled to get a job before, this is going to be easy. And it was a lot harder than I expected. Companies either companies were returning back to the office and they no longer believed in this fully remote, or they would say, yeah, you can be remote, but you need to be back in the UK, or whatever country that was. There was no such thing as, we don't care where you work from. There was all of these restrictions. So I tweaked things a little bit, and I figured, I've got 7 years of recruitment experience. I can use the knowledge that I've got in hunting down candidates to hunting down jobs and reverse engineering it. And I had my aha moment. I thought, right, I tweaked things, and then a couple of weeks later, I got 2 freelance gigs helping startups to hire remotely. And I was consulting with them on how to do this remotely. And then I figured, there's something else. I want to be able to help other people do this, so other people can get remote work as well, and it's not just helping out these companies, I could help individuals. So that was July 2021, I set up Remote Rebellion, and I've been helping hundreds of people to land remote jobs ever since. Thanks. That's me banging on for a little bit about me, so I want to hear from you. Now, I want to ask you if you can all stand up, but for those of you who can, sorry, I want to get some blood pumping a little bit. Thank you. And I want you to stay standing if you have been actively seeking or actively searching for remote work in the last 6 months, let's say. So stay stood up. Don't be shy. Thank you. You may already have a remote job now. I'm not like looking at people who are searching. And I want you to stay stood up if you've been searching for longer than a couple of months before you found anything. For those of you stood up, I want to have a look around the room. I want you to have a look around the room and realise that you're not on your own. Because so many people think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I've been searching for ages. Why can't I get anything? You start to doubt yourself. And it's not you. You can sit down now. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. So people feel like they take it so internally, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? But the remote job market is so competitive. So for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the remote job market, about my freedom framework to get a remote job faster. Please note, there's only 30 minutes, so there's only so much I can cover in this. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And there will be time for questions at the end as well.
After your 25 minutes, we have time for the questions.
Yes, I should do it in 20, it's all good. It's been fast. So, really high-level summary here. What are your options? I mentioned before that you could either work as a freelancer, contractor, or be employed by an organisation. People get so bogged down with like, yeah, well, what does it mean with the tax and the time zones? Worry about that later to a certain degree. Figure out what you actually want first. Do you want something permanent, full-time? Do you want something freelance? Do you want something contract? And as I've also mentioned, the remote job market is super competitive. This graph shows that of all the jobs advertised on LinkedIn, only 9% of them are remote. And that includes all of the BS remote ones you see that are actually hybrid. And 43% of all applications go to that 9%. So it's no wonder that with this whole supply and demand, it's no wonder people are not getting responses. There's just so many more applications than there are remote jobs. So doing the same thing that you've done in the past, using the same methods, is not necessarily going to work. And finding your ideal job is a little bit like finding your ideal partner. It's hard, and you have to be flexible on some of the requirements. And also, there's no such thing as the perfect job. And for that matter, or the perfect partner. Something's got to give again. So where do you start? Where do you start to avoid being this person who's at the top of a slope and with no way to get up? These are some of the things needed just to get an interview for a remote job. Most people want to go straight into amending their CV, updating their LinkedIn, but that's almost like building a house without really having a clear picture on paper what your house is going to look like. And there's some things that are arguably just as important, if not more important, to get the ideal remote job. This is my freedom framework that I'm going to walk through today. I'm going to walk through every step. Like I said, it's a high-level overview of what you need to do in order to get that ideal remote job, remote work, whatever you want to call it. The F is for figuring out what you want. Now, I know most of you probably think, I know what I want. I want this job title, I want this salary. You might have a good idea, but get really clear on what your ideal looks like for you. And it's figuring out what your ideal is, what you're happy to accept, and what your absolute non-negotiables are. And that's going to be different to you than it is to someone else. Your non-negotiable might mean that you never want to work weekends, or that you don't want to work over 40 hours. That's okay, but get really true to yourself of what your ideal looks like. And after a few weeks, few months searching, nothing's happening, then you can go to your happy to accept. Don't just go straight down to the bottom of the barrel. Aim high, and if it's not working, you adjust your strategy. So, do you want freelance? Do you want perm? What level of remote or flexibility do you want? What kind of industries? Do your research on salaries. Because the same way as dating, if you go in just being desperate for anything, I just want to get any remote job, no one likes desperation. It's not attractive. And it's a similar kind of way in dating. The same way, if you go in and you're not sure what you want, or you don't declare and tell someone what you want, you're both going to waste a hell of a lot of your time. R is for refining a strategy, because a goal without a plan is just simply a wish. So just sending off applications willy-nilly isn't a strategy. You need something in place. You need to have processes. You need to be tracking your applications. It's not just a numbers game. Some people think that the spray and pray method works. I don't necessarily feel like that's a good strategy, because what happens is the more applications you make that you don't put time and consideration into, the more rejection emails, the more ghosting, and the more that's going to affect your confidence. And once your confidence is shot, it's very hard to get that back up again. And that doesn't just affect in your job search, it affects all areas of life. I have so many people come to me where they just don't believe in themselves. They just have rejection after rejection, even for jobs that they didn't even want in the first place. So don't go with that spray and pray method. Sometimes it works for some people, but it's really going to have a knock-on effect. So then targeting of specific companies is a really good approach as well. Don't just go for live open jobs. Target companies that you want to work for as well. Work smarter. There's so many tools out there that can help you. I'm always talking about Teal. I feel like I need to get an affiliate link with them, because they're just really good. You can tweak your applications with them. You can organise the companies that you're interested in. Or if you prefer, just use a standard old Google Sheets or a notepad, whatever way you need to stay organised. Track the applications you've made and follow up a couple of weeks later. Don't just wait for them to come to you. Time blocking is a really good method. I'm a morning person. I do the best work in the first few hours of the day. So if I was looking for a job, I would allocate 1 to 2 hours in the morning for job applications. And then in the evening, when I'm at lower energy, I would save that for the scrolling and the finding of the jobs. So find times of the day that work for you and block it through your time schedule and your energy levels. And whatever you do, don't try and do this 7 days a week, especially if you're working full time. You need a break. Just like you need a rest day from the gym, you need a rest day from your job search, because you're going to burn out if you continue. And think of this as a long-term strategy, not just short-term. I mentioned before, not just applying to open jobs, but when you're making those connections and you're finding companies that you're interested in, you're researching, think of this as your foundation for future job searches, especially if you're freelancing. You're going to want to make these connections with different people, and they may remember you years later. I've had people come to me to say that they remembered the call that we had 2 years ago when I was working in recruitment, and they said, "Oh, I just remember you were one of the good guys that listened to me and wanted to know what I was doing." I ended up placing that person in another company because they remembered me and came to me. So be nice, be a good human, and give something back as well, because people will remember that. E is for extending your search. People tend to just go to LinkedIn or maybe 1 or 2 job boards, but there's over 150 job boards that have specialisms, either in remote work or in a specific industry. So LinkedIn is where all the competition goes. You'll get hundreds of applications to those jobs, whereas these more niche job boards that not many people know about, they won't get as many applications. So seek out the ones that work in your field. This is just some of them on there, but there's tons out there. So seek those out, do your research, and actually set up alerts of the kind of jobs that you want to see. Then target specific remote companies and work from anywhere companies. Don't try and convince the companies that you like that you can work from anywhere when you don't have any connection with them, because they get tons of applications. So if they don't know you and don't know the kind of work that you can do, they're highly unlikely to make allowances. So instead, target companies you want to work for, even if they don't have an open job, and make those connections and reach out. You could even do a quick Loom video introduction if you didn't want to do a standard cover letter. Oh, went back too far? There we go. And then Google Advanced Searching. I could do a whole presentation on Google Advanced Searching. This is what recruiters will refer to as a Boolean search. So when I was headhunting candidates, this is the way I would do it. So it's essentially reverse engineering this for the kind of jobs that you're looking for, and you can use keywords such as industries, the remote work keywords, so you want to put 100% fully work from anywhere, and this will show up jobs that won't necessarily be on LinkedIn or on certain job boards. It's amazing what you can find as well. Don't just think of this as looking for jobs. Again, be open-minded, and when you're doing this search, think, okay, I might find some articles, I might find some people to follow, I might find some companies that I didn't know existed. So keep an open mind when you're doing this search. Networking. It's underrated. Everyone says, oh, you need to network to get a job these days, but they don't really go into detail about what that means. And it's underestimated, but wildly done so badly. People just go on like, hey, can I have a job? And that's not going to get you anywhere. When you're networking, you really need to give back, especially if you're in a community. So this is not only going to increase the number of opportunities when done right, but it will also increase your chances of actually getting the job. And then private communities are a gold mine for finding jobs that you wouldn't necessarily find on other platforms. Almost every Slack group that you can imagine will have a jobs channel. So you can set up preferences and set up reminders when there's job titles that you're looking for will come up in there, so you don't have to check them every day. Then there's loads of social media groups. There's Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, albeit a lot of them are pretty spammy and have a lot of scams, so you've got to kind of weed through a few of them to find some good ones. I recommend if it's a pretty specific area or niche that you're going into, paying a little bit for decent communities will pay off, because it will filter through the rubbish. Like, you're getting a lot of Facebook groups. And they can be remote or industry specific. Can't my words out. Okay, so moving into applying now, and I just want to hear some shout-out of answers. How long do you think it takes the average recruiter to look at your CV? 3 seconds? 6 seconds? 5. You're all really close. Whoever said 6 seconds is correct. It's just 6 seconds. I mean, some people think it's a lot longer, but you guys are pretty spot on, so that's good. So just 6 seconds is how long you've got to grab the recruiter or the hiring manager's attention. So they're not going to go and look at every single word, and as much as you might have been told that a bot is looking at your CV and a human doesn't actually see it the first time, it's bullshit. Like, I've worked for many companies, I've spoken to many recruiters. 9 times out of 10, it will be a human reading your CV, unless there's a knockout question, such as, do you have 10 years of experience in XYZ? And if you say no, then it will go do an auto rejection. But if it's not one of those questions and it's just the CV being uploaded, more than likely a human's going to be reading that. So how can you grab their attention in that first fold on the screen to make them think, I want to have a look more, I want to have a little bit look and see what this person can do. So show that value. And size matters, but not as much as you think. So 1 page is what everyone thinks they have to put on there, but it's actually 2 to 3 pages is kind of the golden number. And I know especially the North Americans in the room will be like, no, it has to be 1 page. We've been brainwashed into thinking it's just 1 page. But as long as there's value, and as long as you're getting that message across, and there's metrics and there's data backing up your claims, that's the main thing that matters. And it depends. A free 4-page CV, if you've got like 2 years of experience, probably not. But if you've got 10, 15 years of experience that you want to really portray and it's important, then 2 to 3 pages is completely acceptable. And it's content over design every single time. Whatever you think you need to spend on making this really pretty, attractive Canva CV, you don't need to spend that amount of time. So it's all about the content. Always personalize your cover letter and revamp your LinkedIn so that it's a close match to your CV. And always track and follow up. You never know, you might have been lost in that black hole of CVs and someone just didn't get around to messaging you back, or whatever the reason, people are busy. Follow up. I haven't got time to go through all of these today because I'm short on minutes, there is going to be time for questions, but here are some things to avoid doing and some of the things that you must do. The summary of here is basically to stand out for the right reasons. Personalise every application and find a way to connect the recruiters so you go from being just a name on a screen to a human, to a name, to a person they met. And then diversify your efforts. Network, network, network. I can't say this enough. 70% of job applications are filled via networking. 70%. So applications alone, so just applying alone isn't going to be enough anymore. You need to do something else. You need to find a way to stand out and increase your visibility both online and offline. Connect with people on social media, on Slack. I mentioned these groups before on finding jobs, but use them to actually interact with people as well. Attend, host events. Like, these events are great, you're here, but make the most of them and connect with as many people as you can do and make those meaningful connections. And look up from your phone. I've had people who were on a plane and they got an interview because they chatted to the guy next to them, or someone was in line at a coffee shop and they just happened to meet somebody. You never know who you might meet in public. And remember, if you don't ask, you don't get. Giving is the best thing that you can do, but don't be afraid to ask as well. Ask for referrals, ask for introductions, ask for anything that you think is going to help you. And people are generally good. People generally want to help each other. And then O is outperforming in interviews. Again, I could do a whole presentation on how to interview well. What I generally find is people are better at selling themselves in interviews than they are on paper, but there's also tweaks that you can make in those interviews. One of the best pieces of advice would be, as well as researching the company, research the interviewers as well. Research a way to find a connection that you have with them. That might be that you went to the same university, that you both like dogs, that you both got kids. Whatever there is, people hire people like themselves, for good or for bad. Take note of that and find a way to drop it in like, yeah, when I studied abroad in 2 years in Spain, because you knew they were in Spain, they're like, oh, this person is like me, and it's going to make them more likely to hire you. Now, the M in Freedom Framework, I want to take some answers. What do you think is just as important of this as all of this? What is the M in this Freedom Framework? Any guesses? Money. That's a good one. Any more? Not money? Mindset, someone said. Exactly. So, if you surround yourself with a bunch of can'ts, you're going to become a can't yourself. So, be a yes person. Know that this is possible. I've helped people from age 21 to age 68. So you're not too old. You're not, I don't have enough experience, I'm too this, I'm not enough this. If you believe you can do this, and I've spoken to so many people who have just made things happen, it's a mixture of actually doing the right things, having a strategy, but also knowing that you can do this as well, and knowing that this is possible. So this is the Freedom Framework wrapped up. I've highlighted the D here for diversify your efforts, aka networking, so that you can remember this when you're in the room. Speak to people, introduce them to someone that might be of use to them. Give back, but also don't be afraid to ask. And don't just go straight in with like, hey, you're hiring. How can you show value? How can you show them that you can actually benefit them? What will they get from hiring you? Okay? Think of it on the other foot. That's about it for now. So I've put this on here. If you want to get my Freedom Framework, you can scan that, and that will walk you through the different frameworks on there, the different letters. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to sit here, and time for questions.
I need to tell you, she was so nervous before she came up on stage. I think it's her first. Is it your
No, it's not. I just don't
That's
know.
why you were so nervous. She did a really good job, right? Before we head into Q&A, I really want to know, what was the most awkward job interview that you have ever had?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, it's a really good question. I actually don't know the answer
Did
to
you have
that.
an awkward job interview?
I had a screening call with a guy, and he asked me, I remember that, he asked me if he could use the personal development budget to watch YouTube. And I was like, he's like, can you just not pay me so I can watch YouTube instead of giving me the money for personal development? I was like, no, I don't think we can do that. And he called me an incompetent fuckwit in response.
That's the category.
Yes. Yes. I'll never forget that. English wasn't his first language, so I thought it was quite impressive that he...
Came out with that term, because I didn't know that. It's not native. Okay, my dears, let's head into Q&A. Who has I'm sure there are many. Okay, we start with this beautiful woman there, beautiful black hair. The mic is coming.
She's got great hair.
Yeah.
So, do you think that you have to start by a permanent job like at office, or that remote job can be also your first one? Like, do you need the experience before from a not remote job, or that you can start directly at remote?
It's a good question. I was talking about that with someone the other day, actually, and...
Maybe not everybody has heard it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So should you start with a permanent office job before going into a remote job, yeah? I think it really depends on a few things. It depends on the industry that you're going into, and it depends on your personality and how you respond to being self-disciplined, how much information you know about the industry. I do think there is some value in starting off early in your career and being surrounded by people in person. But not everyone needs that, especially if you're introverted, and that's going to be detrimental to you. And if you're self-disciplined enough to not need to learn some of the things that you gain from in-person jobs, then you don't necessarily need it. So it really does depend.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Yeah, right next.
Very convenient. Great talk. Thank you for that. Have you ever come across these AI frameworks for automatically applying to jobs, like Lazy Apply and Loopsy and Sonara? What's your thought about that?
They can be good when used in the right way, just like any kind of AI. I think people tend to lean on AI tools too much, and they just use those and nothing else. What happens then is a load of bots are sending out these applications that the people are not relevant for those jobs. So what you're doing then is you're not helping yourself. This is why the ghosting rat race is going on, because recruiters are inundated at getting a lot of spam applications. They don't have time to get back to people, and then people are, they're retaliating by using AI so they don't have to spend time on the applications. So it's kind of like a catch-22.
So it's the tragedy of the commons, right? We're just making it worse for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say the best way is to actually make connections with people so that you become a person, a human, rather than a name on a screen, because there's so many names on the screen, you're just another number.
Another question. Yeah? Yeah.
So if you're in a hybrid job that you enjoy doing, but you want it to be fully remote, so how would you advise to negotiate your way to make this a fully remote work arrangement?
So you're working somewhere now and it's not remote, but you want to negotiate that?
It's kind of like a hybrid,
Yeah, okay. So what I would do is first start off and know that it might take some time. Start gathering a folder of all of your wins. That could be client or customer, great jobs. That could be the data of the sales you've increased or what the work you have done has led to. Be a good employee. No one's going to make allowances for a shitty employee. So be a good one. And be patient in sort of gathering that data. Once you've got that ready, then have all of the excuses that these companies like to come up with as to why you can't be remote, such as time zone, such as Wi-Fi, the work rights, tax. Have a reason and an answer for all of those barriers that these companies come up with, so that you're ready with those.
How many people find themselves in that stage of negotiating if they can work remotely? Some? No? Yes. So we have one more question, if you want. Yes, the man here in the back.
Hi. So in the freedom framework, the first step is figuring it out, right?
Welcome.
So from your experience, what are the main blockers or most common blockers, and what is your go-to kind of to surpass that stage?
The main blockers
For figuring it out.
The main blocker is people telling themselves what they don't have or what they're not good at. I hear that all the time. Yeah, but I can't do that because I'm not this, and I don't have this. I don't have a degree. I'm not a digital native. I'm not really technical. So stop focusing on the things that you're not, and instead focus on the things that you do have. I'm a great communicator. I'm good at organisation. I'm good at these things. Especially if you're a generalist. I think generalists are given a bad rep. Everyone needs a generalist. We need specialists, but we also need generalists, especially in the startup world. So instead of being like, oh, I'm not good at really one good thing, but being good at lots of different things and being able to pick things up and being adaptable is a skill in itself. So focus on those things, focus on what you like to do rather than what can I do, and see how those can be combined.
Thank you. I'm sure there are many more questions, but you will be available.
I'll be around,
right?
yeah.
You'll be around. Okay, so again, one more big applause for you. Okay, my dear, stay with me for 2 minutes. I got some important announcements to do, because I will close the stage just from my side here, because after that we will have Shark Tank auditions till 2